Hello everyone! Once again, I hope that your Thanksgiving holiday is a wonderful one. I'm getting a chance here to get caught up on topics of transition. Most times, as you know, my channel is about shits and giggles and fun things that we do out and about, trips, fishing, everything from fishing to metal detecting to gun ranges and all that. But I do like to once in a while during the year address questions that come in because I am transgendered and I am proud. I'm male to female transgender. And I've gone through the mill and I've gone through all the experiences that you can go through in transition, from starting out, going through real life experience before hormones and living as a woman, and all the trials and tribulations before it was easy for me to pass and move through everyday life. One of the most vexing problems has to do with facial features, especially when you're older. Now, I'm no beauty queen, but I'm very happy of the way that hormones have worked on me. I've had very few, really nothing to speak of done to my face except the butt lift that I had, Brazilian butt lift. I did have a slight amount of fat injected into my cheeks, and I'm going to have more come January. Other than that, I've not needed some of the other surgeries. So what are those other surgeries? Well, for some women, the hormones are not going to be affected. And if you're older, it's much more difficult and it takes a much longer period of time to achieve a degree of facial feminization because the testosterone has baked a lot of the features, male features, into the cake. Men tend to have much more forward foreheads, and they tend to have, I was lucky I never had an Adam's apple or anything. They tend to have an Adam's apple, and they tend to have very squared off, more squared off jaws than women do. So it just depends what your individual features are. In a lot of cases, though, there's unhappiness resulting with that because it's very hard to reverse. If, say, you start to transition when you're 40, it's very hard to offset 25, 30 years of testosterone and puberty and going through becoming a man. It's very hard to offset that. And the older you get, the more difficult it becomes. So for one of the things that they can turn to is facial feminization, FFS. Some of my friends have had this done. It can be pretty radical. They can do things like bossing your forehead, which means making it less pronounced so it doesn't have a slope going forward, as a lot of men's foreheads do. They tend to have more forward projection as opposed to the up and down, the perpendicular. Yes, they actually will break your bones. Yes, it's a very radical surgery. Facial feminization surgery is a really, it's probably the hardest thing that you can go through besides the bottom surgery, which I haven't gone through either of them. But I've had some of my friends that have done it, and requires actually breaking bones, sawing, resetting bones, doing things like redoing the jawline and taking that in. And, of course, the trachea shave, doing away with the Adam's apple. We're talking about pretty serious surgery here and stuff that requires a very closely monitored recovery in what they call recovery houses. And they're usually associated with the surgeons that do this work. There's a renowned one in San Francisco that pioneered that, and he has a house that he's affiliated that they go through the recovery process. You almost need around the clock nursing care to make sure that there's no complication, because let's face it, your head and your face are kind of in a liquid state at that point. You got to be very careful. You're wearing a lot of bandages. You're going to look like a prize fighter that went through a 13-round fight. You're going to be dramatically bruised, the swelling. A lot of times I've heard some girls that have gone through this particular surgery, the doctors don't even want them to have a mirror or look at themselves for the first week or two, because it's so traumatizing to see the swelling, and they just feel like, oh my God, what have I done? But over the course of a year, the results can be spectacular, as they have been for some of my friends. like I say, some people are happy. I'm happy with what I was given. Some of them aren't, and it can be very problematic for them. But it's nice to know that there is a surgical solution. But you are talking about a surgery that, depending on the extent of the reconstruction that needs to be done, this takes a highly skilled surgeon to do this work. You can imagine this takes a lot of guts to be a surgeon that undertakes this type of feminization work. But over time, the procedures become more standardized. But you're still looking at a procedure that can cost $20,000 to $25,000 for something like that. And, something you also have to be aware of, having getting that done overseas can also be very risky and very problematic. Okay. And remember, you're a long way from home should you get infection or post-surgical complications. And remember, there's a lot of different things that are being, bones are being reset. The head is being, open, the forehead. I mean, you have the brow bossing, which is, taking a forward sloping brow and having a vertical drop to it. You're talking about a lot of extensive procedures. So just thought you guys should know, facial feminization surgery, it's not for everybody, but it sure has been a lifesaver for some male to female transgenders. Okay, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Mwah.